This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information.
Hello and welcome to another edition of C2C Rankum. I'm the host, Big B, along with my fellow co-host halfway around the world, the Primus, Tim Hendricks. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Excited. Glad we're not having technical difficulties like between the ropes. So
yeah,
we're here today.
Yeah. So we're here today. Hopefully, don't miss too many shows from us because I love doing this show. And today we got a little bit of a different outline of Rankum with the football season just right around the corner. Next few weeks, we're going to study football. We're going to give you our rankings record-wise for each division. We're going to do 2 divisions a week and culminate that with our playoff picture at the end here. So today we're going to do the AFC East and NFC East. We're going to break down the records, top players that we feel that the team has lost, top games that we feel the team has got to help them, and then top storylines on why we're going to follow this team or what should we follow. So with that being said, there probably won't be too many snipes, but hey, you never know. We come up with crazier things. So, but with that being said, Tim, let's kick it off with the AFC East. I'm not going to ask how many we're going to get right because pointless, but who's your 4th team in that division?
I've got, and this shouldn't shock too many people, I still think they're parts and pieces away since they're the 4th team in the division. It's a tough division after a specific team, but I've got, and I will give the record because I'm not afraid. I've got the New England Patriots going 4-13.
Wow. Oh, I did not see that. Wow, the Patriots. But I got the same record, 4-13, but I got the Jets sitting there, seeded overall at the 14th, so they'll get a top 5 pick. But I got the Jets. I think for them, I think it's going to be one of those, yes, you got Wilson, kind of see where that rebuild is. So, kind of see how they come together. But your number 3 team.
My number 3, I think it all depends on how healthy their quarterback can stay. And the weird thing is I went through this once and I had him as a playoff team, and then all of a sudden I had to go back again and redid it and didn't see him as a playoff team. I'm hopefully they can keep their quarterback upright and they're not worried about if he's going to be a head case with the concussions, which he's pretty susceptible to. But I've got the Miami Dolphins at 7-10.
Okay. I think you're key on how that team's going to flow. At number 3, 3rd, seeded 9th, I got the Patriots just missing the playoffs at 11-6.
11-6. I think you're putting a lot of faith in Drake May, and I completely understand it. But the thing is, it's Vrabel and
that's the whole thing. Is their schedule is somewhat easy. It looks like I think they'll split with the East except for the Jets. I think they'll probably rock them, but I think it'll be a bad. It's probably gonna be one to watch. So you're number 2.
My number 2 also at 7-10. You have them at the 4th spot. I think with Justin Fields, they're going to be I think it's an upgrade past Aaron Rodgers, which most people would be going, you've lost your mind if this was Aaron Rodgers from in his mid 30s, the early 30s. But I think if Fields can get to where he was last year with where he was with Pittsburgh in the first 4 weeks of the season, I think he's got a lot of upside. But yeah, I've got the New York Jets at 7-10 as well. Of course, missing the playoffs at 7-10.
All right. At number 2, finishes second, the 6th overall seed in the AFC. I got the Dolphins 12-5. It was tough. I think it definitely is going to depend on Tua. Tua can stay healthy. That team, the sky's the limit. If he gets hurt, then I can see the Patriots, be in that playoff team. But right now, I got the Dolphins. And I guess we sniped each other at 1. So what's your record for the number 1 team?
I've got with a very, 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 very small window closing on that team. Like windows closing pretty quick. I've got Buffalo at 14-3.
Ooh. We're not too far off. I got 13-4, the number 2 seed in the AFC. But you are right. I've got them at the 1 seed. You got them 1 seed, okay? That window is closing quick. I mean, Allen's, not going to be young forever or there forever. And thing is, they're so good right now that they're always drafted in the bottom 20, so they can't get that stud quarterback unless they move up. So it'll be interesting to see what they do over the next few years. So, all right, so let's go to the AFC East. For me, I know they got the first pick this year. Possibly, I think they're going to be getting the first couple picks next year. Rebuild. I hope it comes together. I hope they're better than last year. But again, if you're the number 1 pick and try to be better, and you still end up with the number 1 pick, are you really better? But I got the Giants at 2-15. I think they're just. It's still going to take some time to come around. I mean, they're in a full rebuild mode. So, your number 4 team.
My number 4 team. Well, you said they had them at what? What was their record that you have them at?
I had them at 2-15.
Oh, we're not that far off then. I've got the New York Giants too. I think this team. I still think they're a mile and a half away from where they need to be.
Yeah. Especially in that division.
That division's tough to begin with. But I've got them at 3-14.
Okay, gotcha. At number 3. I got them just making the playoffs at the 8th seed at 9-8. A lot's going to have to do in how season number 2 goes for Jared Daniels, but I got the Commanders sitting there. Your number 3 team.
My number 3 team, I think I'm not going to make any fans with a certain person on our morning tailgate. I think they took a step back, which is weird considering they were going backwards anyway. I don't think Joe Milton's is the heir apparent to Dak Prescott in Dallas. But I got the Dallas Cowboys at 7-10.
Ooh. Yeah,
they got a tough schedule though.
They do got a tough schedule, but that defense, if healthy, still can rock some people. But yeah, we'll have to get into that because at number 2, I have in the 6th seed for my picks here, 11-6, the defending champs, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, let me double check to see where I've got. Oh, that's right. Okay, you got the Philadelphia Eagles as a 6th seed.
At a 6th seed, yeah.
Ooh.
And they got a tough schedule too.
Oh yeah, they do.
You're number 2.
Yeah, because they play. I think they play. If I'm not mistaken, if I looked at that schedule right, they have to play 9 teams in that were in the playoffs last year, including
something like that. Yeah, it's
Kansas City, Buffalo, Green Bay. Their numbers are tough, but mine, you had them a little lower. I had them a little higher than you did, but you're like you said, it all depends on what Jaden Daniels does. I've got missing the playoffs, which is weird because they were in the NFC Championship game last year against Philadelphia. But I've got the let me double check the record. I've got the Washington Commanders again, like I said, missing the playoffs at 10-7.
Yeah. And the thing, guys, they're watching this. We're gonna give a shout out here. Tim found this website a couple years ago. Playoff Predictor, is that what it's called?
NFL Playoff Predictors.
Yeah, that's what we're using. You go through and you pick the winners of each. It calculates the rankings, the stats, or the records. It doesn't do stats because you don't do scores. But
if we could
do that, great website. I like it.
If we could predict the stats, I would be knowing how to draft a fantasy football team.
Yeah, no kidding. At number 1, I got them as a 2 seed because I like their defense. I think a lot will have to depend on the quarterback play. I know we have a little difference of opinions. Mine is driven by a lot of people I know that are Cowboy fans about Milton, but I got the Cowboys at 12-5 at the number 2 seed. I know that was hard for me to choke up to.
That's difficult, but no, I completely get it. I completely understand.
You're number 1.
My number 1 is the 2 seed in the NFC. They had, there's tons of upside. Yeah, I know they brought back a lot of people from their Super Bowl team. I'm dying to see if they can pull a Kansas City and go to back to back. I got the Philadelphia Eagles at 14-3.
And honestly, that's another team too that the Eagles, some of those players, if they want to win it again, this is the year.
The funny thing is, if you look at that roster, and they brought it up a lot during the Super Bowl, it seemed like they knew when to get rid of players. It's kind of like the Belichick thing is like they know when the old player was going in, and that's the thing, they knew when to draft players that needed to be drafted.
Yep.
And it's like they've had I've done draft shows now for us for 3 years, and it seems like all 3 years they've had absolutely phenomenal A+ type drafts. Yeah, and it's so whoever's in, I can't remember who's in it. Is it Howie Roseman? Definitely knows how to draft a team. He actually pays attention to his coach. You can't argue with what he does. Yeah. I really wish we hadn't let Nick Sirianni go to let him leave Indy. He was our offensive coordinator, then he goes and becomes super coach in Philadelphia.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to move on to the top 5 losses, player-wise, that we think are going to impact the team, that they're going to miss. So we'll start with the AFC East. So your number 5 player.
My number 5 player, and this is and it goes off the back of them trading Joe Milton to Dallas. You got a guy with a huge upside, but you basically lose Milton, but that's not the guy. But you don't have a backup quarterback that's got experience. And they let this guy go, and then you turn around and trade Joe Milton, which I thought was weird. My number 5 is with the New England Patriots, but them letting Jacoby Brissett leave.
All right. My number 5, and as of right now, I think he's still unsigned unless I missed something. But, I think, he's not the same player, but I think he still could be a big part of the weapons for Josh Allen. Amari Cooper, I think
he's still out. I think
he's still out there. So there's a chance he could come back. Again, the show is happening today. So, yeah. But yeah, Amari Cooper, I think is going to be a big one if they end up totally losing. That's why he's at number 5. So you're number 4.
But according to this, they say his current team is the Buffalo Bills.
Okay.
But that doesn't.
I think he's still a free agent, though.
Yeah, I think he's a free agent too. I think that was his current team just means it was his last team.
Number 4.
My number 4, a guy that was a huge piece of the defense in Miami. Another guy, but the guy was old. I can't remember if he retired or if he just left. But he was such a anchor in Arizona, and then he went to Miami and just helped that defensive line along too. My number 4 is Calais Campbell.
That one is a big one. Speaking of Miami, we talked about Tua. My number 4, could have helped take some pressure off of Tua with the running game. I got them big hit Rasheem Munster, the running back.
What you said, that was your 4?
Well, yep.
4? Okay.
All right, your number 3.
My number 3, a guy who big. They brought him in because Aaron Rodgers cried. He needed a receiver. It would have been cool if he'd have gone to Pittsburgh with Aaron Rodgers, but I think he wanted to go back to Los Angeles. I think he's now with the Rams, if I'm not mistaken. You could have given Rodgers another weapon, especially when he's used to throwing to. But my number 3 is the New York Jets wide receiver Devontae Adams.
Yeah, they traded. I mean, mid-season too. He left too, right? Or
he went mid-season to the Jets.
Yeah,
and then
he came over. Yeah, and then he
left. He's with the Rams now.
Yeah, my number 3. You kind of hit on both of them at your number 5, but yeah, I got Milton and Brissett. I think you're losing both of them. Milton maybe not so bad, but depending on your fan base. But I think Brissett he's been around for a while, so you're banking on May to do a lot.
Yeah,
and I think their backup is Josh Dobbs right now. So I mean, Dobbs is decent, but can he carry a team for weeks at a time if needed? I don't know. So you're number 2.
My number 2, I'm going to stay with the Jets. I think this guy was huge. I think the whole rumor thing was that he wanted to be traded to Philly. I think it was,
if
I'm not mistaken. A guy who shored up the defensive line in the Jets. But this is a guy I wish I would have gotten in Indy to go along with Latu and DeForest Buckner and those guys. But my number 2 is Hassan Reddick.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the backup quarterback in New England is Dobbs.
Okay. All right. Yeah, my number 2, when you look at people to block, it's for the Dolphins. And I think any team, you lose a part of your line. They always talk to them. You can agree, I can agree. That front line, you got to be a one. You got to be a one unit. Even though there's 5 positions, you all have to be thinking the same thing. You got to be able to block that quarterback, or for the quarterback, you got to be able to open holes for the running back. I think Dolphins are going to miss their offensive lineman, Terrence Armstead.
That's a big one. Yeah, I forgot all about Armstead. He was an anchor.
Yeah.
But it's not C2C unless we're sniping at number 1.
Okay.
You have him at number 4. I have him at number 1.
Ooh.
I think Raheem Mostert. I don't know if the guy they got to replace him is going to be a good, suitable replacement for him. But what can I say? But yeah, I have Raheem Mostert at number 1.
Okay. And my number 1's with the Jets. And I didn't really put him on there. If he could be the old guy that we saw in Green Bay, it's a big miss. But if his ego could be a check, it would be a big miss. But I have Aaron Rodgers. I just think that, the young guys should learn from him to a point, but also Rodgers himself has to get out of Aaron Rodgers' way and go back to being the guy for the Packers. So I think that's the big thing, and just learn from the people that have been there, and I think that's something that the Jets are going to miss. So, all right, so let's go to the AFC East. Again, these are our opinion of players that are going to be missed on their team. At number 5, I know he's bounced around, but I think he would be a suitable backup, especially if a quarterback goes down, and this time it would be Hurts for Philly. I think Kenny Pickett's going to be missed there just because, I know they got the kid from Cleveland, but again, he's unproven where Pickett has been there. So, I got Pickett as Eagles' big miss.
Oh, the Eagles. No. You're on the NFC East? Okay, hold on.
NFC East, yeah.
Because I thought you said AFC East. Okay, we got to go down. We're still NFC here. We're good.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. My number 5 was a huge anchor to the defensive line for the Washington Commanders. I think after they let Montez Sweat go, they traded out Sweat. I think this was your big key linchpin to that whole defensive line. But to let this guy go, I thought was crazy. I get it. I get it, but I don't. My number 5 is from the Washington Commanders defensive end, Jonathan Allen.
Ooh, okay. All right. My number 5, we talked about Dallas and weapons and, and to lose a weapon that's been there for a few years, I think it's going to be hard to replace, but, Jerry Jones thinks he's the mastermind behind a lot of things. So I got number 4, Brandon Cooks.
Brandon's getting old.
Well, but I think it's just a factor of, he's been there. He knows it. He knows it. Yeah, he's getting old, but, I think it's one of those things where it's a familiar face.
Yeah.
So you're number 4.
My number 4, I never thought I'd say the words that the Giants let go is going to be a huge loss, but I hated this guy. I hated this guy when he was in Tennessee. I hated this guy when he was in Houston. But the thing is, he's just one of those guys that'll separate you from the football if you're going over the middle. I hate the guy, but you got to respect what he does. My number 4 is Adoree Jackson from the New York Giants.
Okay. I actually do have a Giant too. It goes to the division rival. And being on the defensive side of things too. He's a playmaker. Azeez Ojulari, Ojulari, defensive end. Yeah. So
I trust you.
You're number 3.
My number 3. I would have hated to see that. It would have been hated to be anywhere close to Bacon when this guy left. Bacon's not going to be happy with a couple of my people on this list. So, how do you let this guy go is beyond me. How do you not keep the guy in your defensive room? My number 3 is DeMarcus Lawrence from the Cowboys.
Okay. My number 2. It's a position where you only have maybe 5-6 of these position players, and to lose half of them, I think I got the Eagles trio of QBs they lost, corners they lost, Maddox, Roger, and Slay. I think that's going to be hard to miss because now you got to replace 3 guys already, So,
well,
you're number 2.
It's kind of funny how you brought up three defensive backs for did you say Gardner Johnson just out of curiosity?
No.
Okay, because my number 2 is a guy who goes to the Houston Texans that was a defensive back from the Philadelphia Eagles. It's the other one that you missed. my number 2 is Chauncey Gardner Johnson.
Okay.
So I got
my
to see
number
him
one.
twice a year. That's nice.
Okay.
I got to see him twice a year.
Yeah. Yeah. My number one is another trio. Because I think again, on the offensive side, wide receiver, you have 5, maybe 6, and now you're losing half of them. So now you got a young quarterback with half of receiving staff that he has to learn where to throw the ball, or they have to learn how to catch the ball from him. Brown, Coward, and now you're going to pronounce the third guy's name. It starts with the Z. But I just think
Zacharias.
Yeah. When you're a young team and got a young quarterback, you can't have too many moving parts on that offensive side. So you're number one.
My number one. Well, he didn't leave because of he didn't leave because he was done, because they didn't want to pay him. He left because he retired. When you said NFC East, this was the first guy I thought of. The former center of the Dallas Cowboys, Zach Martin.
That is a big one. I mean, because you lose your center, you lose that partnership of where the quarterback likes to snap the ball.
Believe me, we know, because our center went somewhere else.
Yeah. So all right. So let's get to the top gains, players that we think are going to make an impact somehow for these teams, the AFC East. So give me your 5th player that you think is going to make an impact.
My number 5 player is supposed to replace my number 1 player. And you guys know him quite well in Minnesota, matter of fact. The former running back there. My number 5 is Madison. I don't even remember his first name. I just looked at it. Alexander Madison.
Okay. Where did he go to?
Miami.
I missed that one. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, because he was in.
Mostert was in, or no, Madison was in San Francisco.
San Fran, I think, right?
I think Miami likes getting San Francisco's leftovers.
Yeah, maybe
because Mostert was there, Madison was there.
Yeah. Madison's explosive back if he can stay healthy and finds those holes. I mean, granted, that's easy to say. If, you're a good back, you can find the holes because nobody's going to touch you.
Right.
I get that. Well, my number 5 goes to the Patriots. We kind of brought him up already. I think he will be a good short term. Got to play a week here. Got to fill in for a half here. Oh, Mays is having a rough first half. Let's bring Dobbs into the second half. So I got Joshua Dobbs as my number 5. Your number 4.
It's odd that you brought up the New England Patriots, because my number 4 is a New England Patriot.
Okay.
Wish it were Josh Dobbs. If I hadn't looked at it, I had to look Josh Dobbs up to see that. But at this point, who knows if he's going to play? My number 4, I had to think about this after I realized that it's funny when you look at the depth chart and it says questionable and the league hasn't even started yet. But you get another guy. It seems like the first 2 guys on this list are guys that have had a cup of coffee in the Vikings organization. But my number 4, I was so glad to not see him in Houston anymore. But my number 4 is the wide receiver going to the New England Patriots, Stephon Diggs.
My number 4, safety, just recently ended up in Miami via trade. Minchie Fitzpatrick, I think,
Minka. Good old
Minka. I know he wasn't happy in Pitt that much. I don't know why. I mean, they had pretty decent teams, but wanted out. Miami got him. Add to that defense that can be scary at sometimes. So you're number 3.
I swear, sometimes I think you're looking at my teams because I too have a Miami Dolphin. But my Miami Dolphin is to make sure that they have a suitable backup for one Tua Tagovailoa. Again, everybody who's a former Jet knows this guy quite well. Matter of fact, former Bronco too. But my number 3 is Zach Wilson.
I almost had him on the list. I'm just like, and that's the thing is, he'd be my number 6, but you're right. If Tua goes down, I mean, you got to have a suitable backup, and he's been around the league a little bit. So, my number 3 is a Jet. A lot of people think that he is.
I swear you're looking at my list.
He is, he just needs his break. Wasn't in Chicago, wasn't in Pittsburgh, even though they were doing good when he started until Russell Wilson came back.
Like it wasn't.
Hopefully that's built around this guy, Justin Fields. I think it's going to be a major gain there.
Well, my number 2, it's not C2C unless you're sniping. My number 2 from the New York Jets, Justin Fields.
Yeah, they put some talent around him. I think, and I know there was talk of him coming to Minnesota. It's just like, I would have loved that last year before,
You got to remember, there was talks of him coming to Indy too.
Yeah. So, my number 2, well, you had him at 4, I believe, for the Patriots, the wide receiver. He stays healthy. He gets his ego in check. He'll be a dominant field receiver. Stephon Diggs. And again, he's got to get out of Stephon Diggs' way.
Yeah.
And
I thought truthfully when he was a free agent, I thought he might have gone to Dallas to go play with his brother.
There was talk. There's a lot of rumors with that. There was rumors when he left Minnesota that he was going to go. They wanted to trade him to Dallas.
Right.
His brother's made a big play for him every time he's come up, but it doesn't work the opposite way where Diggs, Stephon, I don't think he's made a big play for his brother to come to where he's at.
Right.
But of course, Diggs in Dallas is locked up for a while. So, all right, you're number 1.
I always keep forgetting if this kid was in Los Angeles or San Francisco. But my number 1, I think, is a guy that's going to be perfect for the Buffalo Bills defense. I thought it was when I heard he was going to Buffalo, I thought this is just to be on the same field. Not Von Miller so much, but more with Matt Milano. Because
Miller's gone.
Well, yeah, Von's gone, but Milano it's got such a great head on his shoulders for football. Unbelievable, brilliant guy, and my number 1 can learn amazing things, and he's getting right basically at a great spot to win a Super Bowl. I get it's no question, but he could have went and played with his brother, but didn't. But my number 1 is Joey Bosa.
Well, I got half of that number 1 because the other half is also a big guy that left. So they anchored that defensive line really well. Joey Bosa for sure, and then Larry Ojibwe. So those two together, I think, by far, that defense is going to be scary.
Yeah, that defense.
Like we stated before, it is closing quick for them guys. So how many more years can they get? So all right. So let's go to the AFC side of things. AFC East. I have, I believe this was a trade too. So to replace Cooks, Dallas went out and got themselves a receiver from the Steelers, George Pickens.
Forgot about that one. Forgot about it completely.
The thing is Pittsburgh had high hopes, didn't do nothing because of their quarterback. Now you go to a guy that's established in their offense. So it'll be interesting to see what Dak and Pickens or even Milton and Pickens can do. So you're number 5.
My number 5, I know mine was a trade because I remember the day it happened. I was like, why would the Texans go and do that? Especially the guy who's your blindside tackle, and you're going to go and let him, and you're going to go trade him away. And I thought it was completely crazy. This is a guy whose draft stock fell, was it 4 years ago, because he decided to wear a gas mask and decided to have some recreational herbage.
Did he use that gas mask right after he got, or
it was after what it was a picture that he had taken, and it was after
the draft and he fell.
It was after the comp. I think so.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
It was after the combine, I think, and the picture
But
came
they
out.
showed it. This is, why he's dropping.
Yeah, this is why he was dropping. But my number 5 going to the Washington Commanders is Laramie Tunsil.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I'm going to have a theme here coming up here with my next 3 of my next 4 are going to be the same theme. But again, you got, this team's got a young quarterback, got high hopes. I have them just sliding into the playoffs in the 8th spot, but I think with the young guy, especially coming off his rookie year, does the sophomore slump hit him? I got Marcus Mariota going to Washington being a big impact because, he's not an everyday starter, but he can fill in, just kind of like Dobbs. He can fill in short term. He might be able to play a few weeks. He's still okay, but can't give him the keys to the Bentley over there. So,
right.
You're number 4.
My number 4, I kind of brought up this team earlier when they let Adoree Jackson go, but you got a guy that wanted out of Miami, and it was like I couldn't understand why he wanted out of Miami, and then I understand, but then you go to the Giants, which makes no sense. I've got the former Dolphins safety Javon Holland going to the New York Giants.
Yeah, their Giants are going to be one of those teams overall where they got to get better. They can't. Well, tactically they go 0-17 and get worse, but somewhere down the road they got to find that happy medium. So
right.
My number 3. Speaking of the Giants, they just drafted Cam Ward. So
no, they didn't draft. Giants didn't draft him. Giants drafted
who did draft?
Jackson Dart.
Dart, that's who it was. You're right. So again, young quarterback coming into a rebuild team. If he's got the keys to week 1, how's that going to happen? But if they decide to sit him, the next 3 quarterbacks I'm going to list here are suitable replacements. Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and even DeVito. So they don't have to start him right away, but does the fan base want him to? And if he struggles, you got a couple of decent backups there that can fill in. So,
which one is your guy? Was it Russell Wilson or?
I had all 3 of them. I mean, I think Russell Wilson's
already there.
To me, Russell Wilson's probably got the keys right now, but depending on what the fan base wants.
Right.
You're number 2.
My number 3.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Which was funny because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember if this was a trade, and why would you trade him to a team in your own division? I thought it was kind of crazy. Defensive end to replace basically a defensive end. You lose DeMarcus Lawrence, but then you go and get a defensive end that helped out such a good defense that kept the Commanders in a lot of games. Former Gator himself, matter of fact. This was a guy who's been to the Super Bowl with the Cincinnati Bengals. But my number 3 going from the Commanders to the Cowboys, because I could honestly have put him on as a big loss in the NFC East too. But my number 3 is Dante Fowler.
Yeah, that one's going to be pretty interesting, especially going to the division. I mean, that hurts more. Even if it's a backup, you lose a backup to a division rival. So my number 2, I think, kind of shocked the world when this trade happened from San Fran to Washington, and it just gives Washington another weapon. Especially if Daniels kind of has a setback a little bit, but if he does, it gives him a nice weapon out of the slot that can run the ball, throw the ball, of course, catch it, and that's Deebo Samuel. All right, you're number 2.
My number 2, well, you've sniped me at number 3. It kind of blindsided me because I didn't think he was going to go to the Giants. But there was rumors that he was going to Indy too, so it didn't really make much of a difference. But my number 2 is Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean that's weird because one, Pittsburgh now lost 2 of their starting quarterbacks last year. I mean, they had both of them, Wilson, and they thought one of them was going to win the job, and of course now neither one won the job, and you go to Rodgers. So that's I'll be a talker down the road. But
well, the thing is, we didn't bring this up, but I don't know if you heard the news, but that this is Aaron Rodgers is last year.
yeah, he said this is most likely his last year. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But my number one, I brought it up. We brought it up already. You don't think it was a smart move, or might make an impact on Dallas, but I have a lot of Dallas people I know through other channels. They hope Milton beats out Dak. So I got Joe Milton being a big player in Dallas as my number one. Your number one.
My number one, it's not C2C unless we're sniping. It's not Joe Milton, but it is Deebo Samuel. It's just, what can you say? This is the guy. This is the and if Deebo's watching this, first of all, thank you for watching us. But he's a lot. Deebo Samuel reminds me a lot of Taysom Hill.
Yep.
Because he does everything, and I think that's going to help Jaden Daniels out a lot because he can do so much. Because he can be in the running back spot, he can be in the wide receiver, he can play the slot, he can do just about everything. And I think Deebo needs to swerve into that instead of trying to swerve out of it. I think it's I thought it was a good trade to get him into Washington.
Yeah. All right, so let's go into our top stories. We only got 4, one for each team. If you're watching later, comment. Send us a message and see if we're right or not. But all right, your number 4 story in the NFC or AFC to watch.
I was gonna say, if you see this later and to tell us if you're gonna tell us we're wrong, don't watch anymore. My number 4 story, because I can speak, is the New York Jets.
Ooh, okay.
And I truthfully, and you kind of brought it up with Pittsburgh and Justin Fields saying about being the starting quarterback. My big story is, can Justin Fields be the face of the franchise? Is he gonna I think if he gets back to the way he was in the first 3-4 weeks of the season last year, I think the Jets have a rocket strap to their back and they'd be fighting the Buffalo Bills every season. If not, they're back to the Cleveland drawing board at this point.
Yeah. My number 4, we brought it up today. We brought it up on our show Morning Tailgate. We even brought it up the year that this quarterback suffered 2 concussions in 3 weeks, roughly. The Tua watch. Can Tua be healthy? Can Tua stay off of the concussion protocol? What would happen if Tua went down? I mean, I think the Dolphins season relies on a lot of Tua, and so I think for Dolphin fans, you're watching that closely. I think you're trying to see if he's healthy or not. Your number 3.
My number 3, it involves the New England Patriots. As much as I hate them, I think what their big question is, can Mike Vrabel make the Patriots can he be the new Bill Belichick? Can he do what he did when he had Tannehill playing at a decent level, when you had Derrick Henry playing at an amazing level? Can he turn what the New England Patriots have become, and can he turn them around? What's he going to be like with a young quarterback like Drake May? I think that makes a big difference.
I like that one because it kind of plays into my number 3. Can Stephon Diggs play nice? Can he check his ego? Can he stay healthy? Can he, not cry because we all know that he's a diva behind the scenes, even on the scenes. I mean, in front of the camera. Yeah. So can he play nice in New England? Because I thought he would have in Houston. I thought Houston was that was a prime spot for him. Didn't work out, but and that ties into yours. Gable can get him to play nice. So your number 2.
My number 2, it involves the Miami Dolphins. Can they be consistent? Because they could have that. There was, what was it, 3 years ago, right? I think it was before Tua the season before Tua got hurt, they were 7-1. Next thing you know, they just fell off the face of the earth. They don't put this is the NFL. Is they keep saying that the NFL is not a sprint, it's a marathon. You know, they're great at the beginning, and then they decide to just peter out at the end, like they run out of gas. The NFL is all about consistency. They've got the talent. That's the thing. They've got the talent, but they just burn out.
Well, and the thing too is last year, if I remember right, maybe I'm thinking of a different team, but didn't they put up like a 50, 60 spot one game and then come back and almost get shut out, or did
that was so high? That was 2 years ago against Denver.
Okay, all right, a couple years ago.
I think they put up a 70 spot. I think they put a 70 spot up on Denver.
Yeah, and they came back and shit the bed. So, all right. So my number 2, kind of ties into your number 4. Can Justin Fields be the answer in New York? A lot of people thought Chicago gave up on him too early. A lot of people thought Pittsburgh gave up on him too early.
You didn't offer. That was the thing is you didn't offer Justin Fields a contract. When you let him walk out the door, what are they expecting? And Russell Wilson did the smart thing by waiting to see what Justin Fields did before he made a move, because I think Justin was waiting to see what Russell was going to do, and then Justin just went to the Jets and saw that Rodgers was going to go and there was nobody in New York.
Yeah. So can Justin Fields fly the ship? I mean, that's what you got there. You're number 1.
My number 1 is the Buffalo Bills, and I think yours is the Buffalo Bills too.
Yep.
Can they get past the Chiefs? Because at this point, Josh Allen is starting to make himself become this generation's Dan Marino. Yep. It's crazy. You can't even say he's going to be the next generation Jim Kelly, because Jim Kelly went to the Super Bowl 4 times. And Dan Marino went once, and at least it's frustrating. I've got a couple friends that are Bills fans, and I guarantee you they've gotten a lot grayer faster than I have. And it's just being a Bills fan. But, like we said very early about when we were going through our records, their window's closing. Yep. Their windows is closing, and it's closing in a hurry because their defense is aging out. Parts of their offense is aging out, and they're not really replacing anybody as fast with younger players. They're just re-upping with older players.
Yep, I'm with you, and that is my number 1. And pretty much, can Josh Allen lead this team to the Super Bowl? I think that's where they don't have to win it. I think he just has to get over that hump, like you said. But again, their gaps closing quickly, and Allen's not going to be around there long. And like I stated before, they're always making the playoffs, so they're drafting late in the draft, so they're not getting that stud QB to replace Allen unless they make a move. So it's not do or die, but it's getting there.
Getting to die real quick.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to the AFC East. My number 4 story is, from 2024, you got the first overall pick, or you're in the top 5. I can't remember now. But can the Giants improve? And does that mean record-wise? Does that mean stat-wise? I mean, it kind of got to go. I mean, they showed glimpses that they were a good team last year. Most of the time, they showed that they were duds. So, and can Dart, find that, or Wilson, so hopefully that team comes together. So you're number 4.
My number 4 is with the Washington Commanders. You got to worry, you got to, and this is my question is, we had this conversation about Jaden Daniels last year about why Jaden Daniels is succeeding so easy, and then you find out that Dan Quinn simplified the offense for Jaden Daniels. And I'm worried that this is now his sophomore season, and I'm worried about Jaden Daniels' sophomore slump. And I hope that Dan Quinn doesn't decide to make the playbook a little more exotic, a little more tough. Because why fix something that isn't broken? But my number 4 is, Can Jaden Daniels avoid the sophomore slump?
Yep, that's my number 3 is year 2 for Jason Daniels. And I've said it over the time. Everybody's like, well, we're winning because the quarterback, they're not running the full playbook at him. Okay, then either there's a problem with the coach or a problem with the playbook. It's not the player. If you're winning with just a handful of your normal plays, why would you fix that? That was the same thing.
Change that.
That was the same thing in Philly a few years ago. It's
with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, well, not Hurts, but no, before that when they had Wentz and they had
Carson. I'm going to say this out loud. And I'm kind of hoping somebody picks it up and he hears it. But Carson Wentz was a moron.
Yeah, but the thing is they were winning when Foles came in, and Philly fans were like, "Oh yeah, we're winning because we're not running our full playbook. We're simplifying it." Well, why would you fix it then? If you're winning with a simple playbook, why would you fix it?
Why would you change it?
And that's the same thing with Daniels. If you're winning with running, Madden plays or Tecmo plays where you only have 6 in the holster, why would you change it? Just let it go.
Yeah,
maybe do a couple more here and there, but week 1, you're starting with the same playbook you ended week 16 with, or the playoff game with. Yeah, let it go. So the sophomore slump doesn't affect them that much. But yes, year 2 for Daniels, I think, is a big one. So your number 3.
My number 3, plain and simple, with the Philadelphia Eagles. Can they repeat? I think it's just that simple.
Okay. Well, my number 2 kind of falls in that same line, with the Eagles, but can Barkley repeat 2024?
I'm not worried about Barkley. I think Barkley can beat. I think Barkley's going to. Do I think he's going to be pushing up to the number of Dickerson? I don't think so, but he doesn't need to.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, but I think that team was a lot more dangerous when Barkley was doing what he was doing. So, but also with the Eagles too. I mean, Hurts ain't getting any younger. Barkley's not getting any younger. Can those guys stay healthy? Because your backups ain't that big. So your number 2.
Well, my number 2 kind of plays piggyback off of your number 4, I want to say, with the New York Giants. Is Jackson Dart your starter week 1? Just that's because everything else will work out. And if Brian Dable does what they did, what Washington did with Jaden Daniels,
he's gonna start week 1.
But the thing is, Mississippi quarterbacks aren't that great. That's my worry. I think the last Mississippi quarterback that was worth his weight in gold was Eli Manning, and the problem is that Jackson Dart is not Eli Manning.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're kind of banking on because they made that comparison in the draft, and we saw it.
Yep.
So. Well, my number 1 goes to the Dallas Cowboys. Like I said, I got a few Dallas Cowboy fans that are hoping that Milton overtakes Dak as a starter, and some of us said they hope Dak is hurt so Milton can play. So I got the quarterback watch in Dallas with Milton versus Dak.
I got in Dallas. My number 1 story stays in Dallas, just like you did. But does Mike McCarthy keep his job even if they make the playoffs?
Yeah, that was a big talker too. I think a lot of Dallas fans are shocked that he's still there after fumbling a few things. So, all right, so let's get into our blind 5. I love this category. I love this time because I don't know what Tim's going to throw at me. Tim doesn't know what I'm going to throw at him. So it's always fun. We always get us thinking. I will start.
Oh,
I'll keep it in football.
Oh, me too.
I'll keep it in football. So my blind 5 is the top 5 games in the 2010 or in the 2010s. So for 2010 until 2025, I think, somewhere in that range. So I found a list of the greatest 100 games, but I thought I could break it down to just this small part. So my number, or for you, the Super Bowl 2013 49ers versus the Ravens, they named it the Harbaugh Bowl. I know it's got to think of how many good games there was
No,
in the last 15 years ish.
I'm afraid if I drop that where I want to drop it, that you're going to put worse games on there. I had a whole problem with that because of the second half of that game. That's the one where the power went out in the Superdome, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Yep,
At
I think
halftime.
so, yeah.
I'm going to put it at 4.
Okay. The Philly special, the Super Bowl of 2018 here in Minnesota. Pats versus Phillies.
Oh God, we just talked about Nick Foles and Carson Wentz.
Yep.
2. I love that game. I love that game because New England gets beaten in a Super Bowl. It's just that simple.
Yeah, ain't that good. The Super Bowl I left early on because it was 28-3. Super Bowl of 2017, the Pats versus the Atlanta Falcons. The game ended with the Pats winning 34-28 in overtime.
80 for Brady.
Hated that game. I hated that game.
Well,
so
I
much.
loved the game when I left.
I did too because it was Atlanta, and I'm like, I'm watching that game while I was at work.
I thought it was
Oh,
over
my
in the fourth quarter. I told my buddy we're at the bar. I'm like, I'm going home. This game's over.
I
I
had
wake
to-
up to
I
the
had
text. It's like, dude, you left too early.
first overtime game, Super Bowl. Well, the funny thing is, we had a guy at work named Jay that said, "No, you can't sleep on the Patriots." I'm like, dude, I'm going to sleep on the Patriots.
Yep.
I'm going to say, I'm so worried because I'm going to say 3 because I have a feeling. I know where one of these games are coming up from, and I'm not going to be happy.
No. I don't have the Colts versus the Vikings. I don't have that one.
Thank God. Okay.
I do have a Viking game though. It's the divisional game.
You're gonna have
The
that.
Stephon Diggs game.
2018
love that
Vikings
game.
versus Saints, Minnesota Miracle. Stephon Diggs, all he had to do was get out of bounds, caught the ball. The Saints defensive back missed the block, and to
Love
the house
that.
he goes.
I love that game. He threw that helmet further than what's his name threw the football. I love that. I love that game. I'm going number 1 on that game. I do. I love
Okay.
that game. I'm gonna hate this
I
game.
love that game too because we're sitting at a buddy's garage watching the game like we normally do, and
We haven't done it this year.
yeah, and we're all like, all they have to do is get out of bounds. Let's set up for a field goal. They threw it to the sidelines. We're like, Diggs, get out, run! I mean, literally, we all just said that.
You switched so fast.
So your number 1 game is also
My number
1
5 game.
Or no.
My number 5 game. Your number 1. My number 1 game was the Diggs game.
Oh, your number 5 game. You're right. Super Bowl 2014. Seattle versus the Patriots. Butler's interception on the 1-yard line.
Oh, I'm real happy where my number 5 is.
Yeah, but a lot of Seattle fans, and I agree too. You should have ran the ball. You had the best running back in the league.
That beast mode.
Play action, even a play action fake to the running back.
Have you seen some sideline videos of that game? Because
not really.
Pete Carroll is walking back, right? Is walking back away from that sideline, on the sidelines, walking away from that goal line, and Marshawn is walking towards the goal line with his helmet in his hands, laughing and shaking his head.
Oh, really?
I'm like, oh, dude.
All right. So my order, I had the 2014 Super Bowl, Butler interception 1. 2, I had the game that I missed or left early on, the Atlanta Pats game. Number 3, Saints versus the Vikings. Number 4, I had the Philadelphia special.
Really special.
And then number 5, I had the Harbaugh Bowl because, it is what it is.
Yeah,
All
it was two different games in that half in that game, and it was like,
Yeah, pretty much. All right, what is your topic for me?
all right. Since there's reasons why I asked you if Jackson was into girls already and all that other stuff, and
All right.
I thought this would be great because then I can and Jackson's within listening.
He's here.
So, and Jackson gets a girlfriend, and she likes football. Which team would you like her to be a fan? Would you not like her to be a fan of?
Oh, okay. All right. This will be interesting.
All right. The Patriots.
5.
Okay. 5. That was weird. I wasn't expecting that answer that quick. The Browns.
Oh. I mean, I get it if you're from the city, from the state.
I dated
Minnesota. I mean, I guess the Browns have to be 4.
I dated a Browns fan.
Okay.
Not a real fun, thrilling thing. And I went to a Browns game with her.
Okay.
So you said 4 on the Browns?
Yep.
The Cowboys.
Oh, God.
I'd watch just for the cheerleaders.
I'd have to go Cowboys 3 because, she doesn't know the whole history of why I would hate them. But, all right, number 3.
All right. The Bears.
Yeah, I mean, it's Minnesota. So, I mean, you're so close to Illinois, so, yeah, I got to go Bears number 2.
Want to take a guess who my number 1 team is?
Packers?
Chiefs.
Chiefs, you're a big Chiefs fan. That doesn't hurt. Packers.
Yeah, Packers 1. I mean, you're so close. I mean, and Tim, my family has a lot of Packer fans into it, so it's one of those love them.
That doesn't mean anything. My sister's
it's one of those where
my sister's a Lions fan, so it don't matter.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if I knew the Cowboys were on that list, I'd be number 5 just because of a certain trade. But I'm happy with the list. I mean, we're in Minnesota.
Wouldn't that be the number 1 team that you wouldn't want there to be a fan of?
The Packers? Or
No, the Cowboys.
Oh, this was not to be a fan of.
Right.
Okay, I got it now. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I did it wrong. I misunderstood. So yeah, Cowboys would be the number 1 team tonight.
Yeah.
I would switch that. I put the Cowboys 1, Packers, Bears, Browns, Pats.
I've got for you thinking like you. I got the Packers, Cowboys, Patriots, Bears, Browns.
Okay. So, all right, Tim. Any final thoughts?
No, I have tons of final thoughts, but 99% isn't allowed to be seen or heard on any type of thing. And Jackson's sitting right next to you, so it makes it even easier to. I enjoy doing these shows. I'm looking forward to this. It's a nice, good kick in the pants to get us ready for the NFL season. With what next week? Training camp start? Is it this weekend?
Yeah, it's this weekend or next week. I know. Like I said, it's right around the corner.
Right.
We also have the St. Paul Saints Bears kicking out their training camp.
St. Paul Saint Bears. That's not right.
St. Paul.
St. Paul Bears. The
Yeah,
St. Paul Saints Bears. They're playing baseball.
They're kicking off their training camp this week. I do have penciled in some interviews, some times to start our weekly show with Bears Huddle. I'll get with Cody and some of his staff and players, and then hopefully a couple live interviews from practice one of these Tuesdays. So
I get to go.
But keep checking us out all week long. We got, I know it's been hit or miss, but we do have some great shows. Morning tailgates coming around the corner. Just kind of finalize details on that. Between the ropes, heard there's some technical issues, but that's the life of the internet. Come check us out.
If you happen to miss any of our shows, we're on YouTube. Go ahead.
Yep.
And check YouTube.
Yep. So, with that being said, we'll see y'all next week for another football edition of C2C Rank Up. Have a good one.